Hi there, my name's Ed. Today we're going to be tasting a 2018 Sheng Puerh called Jade Rabbit, and this was bought from Crimson Lotus. I bought this tea a little while ago and it's been sitting in a box in storage for pretty much all of that time, and I was curious to see what has happened over those intervening few years that we've had. It's now 2024, so this tea has had around 5 to 6 years of aging, and that is something quite desirable for Puerh tea. So to start off, the leaves are quite dark. There's a few light flecks. You won't be able to see these from over there, and most of it's in one large lump. Of course, it's nice to pause briefly and smell the leaves, and I haven't drank Puerh in a few years actually, and the aroma on the nose is quite pleasing. It's almost evoking a bit of nostalgia from a few years ago of drinking a fair amount of Puerh. I've always found Puerh tea to be something that's hard to really characterize, and you can see this in tasting notes for Puerh. They often evoke quite odd tasting notes, which are maybe quite earthy or mineral, sometimes sort of creaminess or bakedness, but really there's just a very characteristic Puerh character, I think, which is pleasing to smell after so long actually. Here I've got the first infusion, and it's looking very light, so it's probably going to take some time to open up. The aging process in some ways is meant to soften a tea. It's meant to make the astringency less potent while still being there, obviously, and you're meant to develop more flavours over the period of kind of oxidation, some enzymatic processes that can go on, different things, really complex chemical processes that can go on to change the flavour profile of a tea. So those first whispers, it's very light in that first infusion, getting a tiny bit of grip from the astringency. There's some floralness to it, and there's maybe just a tiny bit of kind of orange zest. It's kind of green aspects. I mean, it's kind of got a kind of like a grape stem almost flavour. But it's also round and got that I hesitate to say biscuity, but it does have a sort of sweet, baked aspect to it as well, which is quite nice. This analysis is probably going to be, for me, much more about whether or not I like what I'm tasting, rather than an in-depth analysis of the tasting notes, just simply because I think I'm going to struggle to really give any good tasting note analysis on this tea, just because I just don't have that context, that kind of palate context of tasting lots of Puerh tea recently. This is a real fresh nose, fresh eyes on a tea that I've tried maybe once before, and a category of tea which I've had in the past. So this is just a bit of fun really for me to see how this really elusive aspect of connoisseurship in tea or wine or other categories, this elusive concept of aging, because aging is, I wouldn't say gate kept, but to be able to buy your own tea or wine or whatever and age it yourself is quite a difficult process, because you need to have somewhere to store it in good conditions, you need to have the capital to buy it in the first place, and then you've got to have that patience, that foresight of buying ageable products, and seeing that through and having the patience and all that stuff. So it's quite hard actually often to really experience, to get good comparisons between young and old in connoisseurship. Yeah, it's juicy, nice and juicy. It's got that, again, it's almost like an underripe citrus, kind of grapey stem note. It's got warmth. It's very light on mineral, or very light on, actually, interestingly, very light on the astringency here. It's not gripping. Dare I say, it's kind of easy drinking in a bizarre way. I don't know whether that's because the infusions are still quite mild. Maybe I need to put the kettle back on the boil and start to really draw out some of those sort of deeper, more locked in flavours. You feel that build up of minerality. But I think this tea probably has a lot more to give. I'm probably going to have to run this through quite a lot more infusions to get a nice sense. And with the freshly boiled water, so hopefully we can be a bit more aggressive on the brewing. One thing I notice quite strongly after a long time of not having Puerh tea is that Puerh tea is just unrivaled in terms of finish. Like you drink the tea and then you're drinking it. I was walking over into the kitchen, and you're still almost drinking it, even though you're not. That flavour is still there, which I think that's a really fun aspect of tea, the aspect of finish, because in the area I'm most comfortable in connoisseurship is wine, and a finish might last for sort of 5 to 10 seconds, but tea almost goes for like minutes. Like I haven't tasted the tea for a little bit, and I can still taste aspects of the tea in my mouth still. So that's one area where Puerh tea in particular is kind of quite fun. So we're getting more of those kind of like deeper earthy notes. I wouldn't say earthy necessarily, like vegetal. I think Puerh tea is very vegetal, based on the way that it's processed. So you do get a lot of that kind of primary, just like vegetal, like leafy flavour from the tea, which is quite interesting. Puerh tea is another interesting thing as well, because it's definitely an acquired taste, I would say. But as with many acquired tastes, those are the tastes that people love and enjoy. You know, so you might not like something the first time you try it, but the more you try it and the more you get into it, the more you enjoy it. And for some reason, those actually become the kind of cult following, let's say, categories, whether that's Puerh tea, or whether that's whiskey, or you've got Islay whiskies, which are really austere and quite unpleasant sometimes to drink, but you get into them and you grow an appreciation for them. So Puerh, I'd say, is another one of these sort of tastes that are acquired and loved as a consequence as well. Yes, it's this interesting balance of this juiciness, this suppleness, but also starting to get a bit of that acidity, astringency and tannin as well. But it really isn't, quite surprising to me, it really isn't super strong. It's not gripping me like I would have expected. So I would hesitantly say that might be a feature of the aging. Those really astringent notes tend to drop out over time, and that's what you see in wine as well. So I wonder what is going on chemically in those cases. The aroma of a tea, for me, is almost the best bit. And maybe that says something about the quality of the teas that I drink, where the aroma tends to beat out the liquor in terms of flavour profile and aroma, but this tea is warm and inviting. It's got that floral and slightly orange citrus note. It's got the vegetal, leafy note. And just that those whispers of baked notes as well. So I think I'm going to keep drinking this tea. If anything jumps out at me, I'll press record and talk about it. But overall, my impressions of this tea have been sort of what I expected, I suppose. It's just nice to revisit those past interests that you had, those past moments of connoisseurship in the past when you were interested in different things. So this is me revisiting that and seeing how it stacks up in context of time, and nice also to try and taste some of the age-related aspects of Puerh tea. This tea certainly probably needs probably another 10 more infusions, but there's only so much time in the day and only so much recording space. So if anything jumps out at me, I'll be back with that. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and yeah, go back to some of those old teas that you've got from whenever you've bought them. Sometimes it's interesting. Thanks very much.